Hey guys, welcome back to Graham DVM. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video. I apologize for the delay. Life's been busy, the holidays were busy, but we're back. Today I wanted to take some time to talk about a problem that can be unbelievably frustrating and confusing for our cat owners. Peeing in the house, having accidents outside of a litter box. Why is it happening? What are we supposed to do? How do we attack this problem? Let's take a look. So the first thing I wanted to do is just look at some anatomy. What makes cats tricky or makes cats unique is that depending on if they're a boy or a girl, the probability of certain issues, medical issues, causing that problem of peeing in the house varies somewhat. First off, we'll look at our cat. This is clearly a cat, great picture of a cat. Maybe not great, but it's all right. You can see that there's basically a bladder superimposed on our outline of the cat. Both the boys and the girls share the general anatomy of a pretty straight shot for this bladder to narrow down into their urethra and then out through either the urethral orifice associated with the vulva or through the penile urethra in our boys. Now, variable widths of urethra depend on whether they're a boy or a girl. In general, the boys have a narrower and slightly longer urethra than the females. This tendency adds a whole level of complexity when we're talking about our male cats and the types of things that we can get into as urinary problems progress on. But that's a discussion for another day. First and foremost, let's focus in on this bladder, because when we're having accidents, we know urine is making it from point A to point B, your favorite carpet, your favorite bed sheet, what have you, and we need to know what's happening in here to cause that. So let's take a minute first to focus on the medical things that would cause your cat to be unable to control their bladder. So this is a cat that doesn't mean to pee on your favorite rug, doesn't mean to pee on your pillow. It's a cat that can't help the process. They have some discomfort happening in their bladder contributing to that. Now, what makes cats unique is their bladder is somewhat of a stress organ. So a cat being stressed from simple things, family coming over for the holidays, maybe they have a youngster that was chasing them around the house. Maybe you've done some changes to the living room, moved some couches, bought some new couches, added some plants. Maybe you got a new animal. Anything that you could think of as far as changes to their daily ritual can be a form of stress for cats. And they don't always look stressed when it happens. The stress can be something very intrinsic and yet significant enough to cause an inflammatory process to occur spontaneously in the bladder. Now, there are a few different names for this process. Feline idiopathic cystitis, feline lower urinary tract disease, feline urologic syndrome. Lots of names for the same thing, but ultimately this is a completely sterile inflammatory condition affecting the bladder, which will cause cats to many times have accidents outside of their litter box. Sometimes they confine their problem to that litter box. They're going in and out of it all the time. But if you're having a cat or seeing a cat having accidents outside of the box, if it's a medical cause, this is very commonly one of those causes. Now, what makes it easier to distinguish at our end is we'll see these cats having much smaller urinary accidents. You have to imagine that this is a bladder that's inflamed. That's the nature of the disease. And so any amount of urine filling in that bladder will render a stretch response that's uncomfortable, and they'll have to immediately void that bladder. So these cats will often have bloody or otherwise smaller spots of urine accidents around the house. They don't always have to be this way. Sometimes it's a larger accident, so we can't tell specifically from that alone, but classically, these are smaller urinary accidents in the house. Another medical reason cats would have this urge to pee, for a reason beyond just a inflammatory cystitis, is that good old-fashioned urinary tract infection. Probably the number one thing my clients think their cat is having when they come in is a urinary tract infection. Now, the boys, you can pretty much dismiss the likelihood of that. You can't omit it, but it becomes very uncommon to see a male cat to have a UTI causing these signs. Females are a different story. Their anatomy is more conducive to the development of a urinary tract infection, so it is an entirely reasonable and actually quite common cause of them exhibiting these behaviors. But in the boys, that's uncommon. The next thing we have are these guys. These are cystoliths or bladder stones. Now we don't see a lot of kidney stones in animals, though they do occur. The ones you're going to observe clinically, the ones that are going to rattle around and wreak all kinds of havoc in the bladder, are in fact bladder stones. Now these pose their entirely unique threat and challenge to our pets. In boys, they can cause blockage if they try to pass them. You know, sometimes we have to go and remove them surgically, depending on if they're a male or a female or what kind of risk tolerance we have. But bottom line is, a cat having an accident in the house could very easily have stones. Now, much like our urinary tract infection and even our cats with that inflammatory cystitis, these guys may have that bloody small spot of urine happening somewhere around the house, whether it's in a sink, a bathtub, your carpet, or your pillow. That's the classic sign. Now, often they will have that non-bloody, larger accident as well. So once again, we can't rely on the color or size appearance of these accidents to know if it's a stone or not. These cats need an x-ray to make that distinction, or an ultrasound to make that distinction, but a stone is yet another cause. Now the last one is the big bad one. It's the one I don't like to bring up, and usually I can eliminate or remove this one as being probable in a cat that's, you know, younger than middle age. But once again, uncommon though possible, is that we have a mass structure contributing to that sense of need to have these accidents. There are tumors that can develop near this neck portion of a cat's bladder, or sometimes elsewhere within that bladder, that will once again cause burning and discomfort and lead these cats to have accidents. So our old guys may not be, once again, doing this to spite you. They could even have something as significant as a tumor contributing to this need to have an accident. Well, what about the cats that don't have any medical reason that we can find to have an accident? What's going on with these guys? They're the hardest ones. These are our inappropriate urinators. Whether they've been set off by something that we've had control over, moving a couch, getting a parrot, having our niece come over, who knows what it was. These are cats that have emotionally had a change that they won't tell you, they won't tell us, that has caused them to start lashing out in basically in the form of having these spraying behaviors, the inappropriate accidents in the house. Now, managing these guys, again, much more difficult. We're talking about a behavioral problem as opposed to a medical problem that we can essentially address and resolve. So how do we go about that? Well, that's a much tougher question. Let's get into it. First and foremost, we have to, when we're addressing these guys, it's pretty important that we're cleaning up appropriately. An enzymatic product is key for breaking down the scent that these cats learn to identify and repeatedly, soil these areas. There are a few products on the market that are enzymatic. Get them at all the general over-the-counter pet store places. But it's key that you clean up very well. You're going to want to. The smell's usually pretty bad, but certainly these are pretty important from the standpoint of avoiding the cat revisiting these locations. Then we have access. We also have to cut off access to these specific soiling areas that these cats have, whether it's the option of closing a door, keeping them out of a certain room, whatever we have to do to eliminate that. We also want to make sure these cats don't have a good reason to choose having an accident outside of the box. Are we cleaning the box every day? If not, maybe we have to be cleaning it twice a day. Have we used a litter that they don't like or that has a scent that they're refractory to? A cat with a dirty litter box or a litter box they don't like going into will not only not want to go in, but they may even lash out and have these accidents in retaliation. Our general rule is about 2.5 litter boxes per cat. So in a multi-cat household, it's not unreasonable to need 4, 5, or 6 litter boxes, if possible, in that living environment. So we've done the basics. We've got the litter boxes figured out. We can't think of any changes that we've made. They're not an intact cat that's looking out the window at an intact female, getting themselves aroused in some way to want to lash out. We can't come up with anything. How do we manage these guys? Well, this is that tough subset of cats that we end up having to address with some form of anxiolytic. If we're lucky, we can use a pheromone diffuser, feel-away diffuser, something over the counter, something to kind of naturally calm these animals. If that's not an option, your vet may end up prescribing anxiolytics like you or I would take for our anxiety problems. Prozacs, amitriptylines, we have a whole gamut of different medications that have shown to be efficacious in managing cats that are getting into this kind of problem. So that'll be a bridge to cross if you've eliminated all the basics. They're medically sound, we can't find a problem in our household that's contributing to this that we may have to broach in order to get our cats over the hump and keep our cats happy and us happy in a urine-free household. I hope you found this to be informative and interesting as we get into a topic that, again, elicits a lot of nightmarish trouble for my clients. If you end up with any specific questions about it, once again, post up below. Bottom line is, guys, get into your vet. They're going to have to do a really good exam, probably going to need to check some urine. They may need an x-ray. Going to have to rule out all that medical stuff before they cross the bridge into anxiolytics, but this is something that they can definitely help troubleshoot. There's no reason to give up yet. Let's keep those cats happy, and until next time, we'll see you on Graham DVM.